Good morning to you all. That's okay at the end of the day? Good. Some time ago, we did a creature study on frogs, back in about April, but they are such a wide variety of species that we can revisit them once more, just look at some of these creatures, and that's the title of our creation moment, Fascinating Frogs. We start with an opening scripture in Romans 1:20, which reads, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse." In Genesis 2:19, God brought the animals to Adam to see what he would name them, but that was just the gateway into God's global menagerie. As is the case with many groups of living creatures, frogs and toads, of the order Anura, are packed full of surprises, waiting to be discovered and unveiled. These surprises include their dizzying diversity. There are roughly 7,000 species in the world today, having a jolting disparity of different makes, models and modes of existence. Today we'll just look at a tiny fraction of these frog species in the world, focusing on three aspects: a birth process, communication and protective abilities. So we start with the birth process. A rare Australian aquatic frog has a most amazing system for rearing its young to be found in the animal kingdom. If any other creature tried the same method, the result would be fatal to its young. The frog is a species of Australian frog so rare that it only has a Latin name. Once the eggs are laid and fertilised, the female swallows the eggs. Sometimes she waits until they begin to develop. However, once the young are in her stomach, she forgoes eating for 8 weeks. After 8 weeks, the young developed frogs emerge from her mouth. So why aren't the young frogs digested in the mother's stomach? Once the offspring are in her stomach, they begin to release fine threads of chemicals from their mouths. Among these chemicals is one that causes the mother's stomach to stop manufacturing acid. In other words, the tiny young frogs change the mother's stomach from an organ for digestion into a comfortable, protected nursery. Scientists were amazed at the frog system, since no other creature in nature is able to do this. And how could it possibly have happened? By chance and beneficial mutations, you could ask. Moving on to the communications aspect. The male white-lipped frog of Puerto Rico communicates using more than a variety of sounds. The frog also sends seismic signals through the ground. Researchers studying the frog have learned that it is more sensitive to seismic signals than any other creature. The male white-lipped frog communicates using chirps, chuckles and thumps on the ground. The male begins to establish his territory by sending out a rapid stream of chirps. When he is sitting on the mud, each chirp begins with a thud. The thud is a thump on the ground that is strong enough to travel for some distance. It's thought that he does this by inflating his throat pouch so rapidly that it thumps on the ground, setting up a seismic wave. The thump is an important part of the frog's territorial strategy. While his chirps tell other males his direction, they don't let others know how far away he is. However, the seismic wave travels through the ground at a different speed than the chirp travels through the air. This difference allows the other males to know both the distance and direction of the male by the different times at which they hear the thump and the chirp. The other males respond to the chirps and thumps, with longer sounds called chuckles. So who taught the frog this complicated but precise system? Who taught him how to measure distance by using both airborne and seismic waves? Only our wise creator could have done this. And going to the protective aspect, the Fleischmann's glass frog is a tiny nocturnal croaker with nearly transparent muscles and skin. Researchers have long wondered where this amphibian stashed its blood. Thanks to new research, the answer is clear. In the forest, sunlight passes through the translucent leaves, but not through most creatures sitting on those leaves. Predators hunting below can easily spot their prey's silhouette. Hide and seek, the predator wins, but the glass frog has a trick. When the frog is active, its blood circulates throughout its body and the red blood cells absorb light, making surrounding tissue more opaque. While napping on leaves during the day, the frog amps up its disappearing act by packing almost 90% of its red blood cells into its liver. The liver is encased in a mirrored sac to reduce the effects of visible light. For most animals, cramming red blood cells together results in coagulation. That's the same process that forms scabs on a cut. Yet the glass frog daily removes, repacks and restores blood cells in its circulation without suffering harm. If scientists could solve this mystery, they could improve blood clot treatments for humans. Although escaping from predators would have been unnecessary before the fall, God has ingeniously pre-programmed the genetic information essential for glass frogs to control their transparency. Now, time does not permit to tell of the many other species of Wallace's flying frog, the wood frog, the marsupial frog, the pebble toad, bioluminescent frogs, or the African bullfrog, which has amazing abilities, who through the wisdom of their maker can glide over 50 feet, brood tadpoles in extensive pouches under the skin of their flanks, dodge predators by going rigid and cartwheeling down mountainsides uninjured, use karate kicks to defend their clutch of eggs and wasp attacks, and save their stranded tadpoles by bulldozing a channel from a dry mud puddle to a larger life-giving pool. You can see that on nature shows actually. And we conclude then with Psalm 104 verse 24, which reads, O Lord, how manifold are thy works, in wisdom thou hast made them all. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for listening.